Hi, everyone. Dr. Tagge here. In this video, I'm going to talk a lot about our framework of health here at Tagge Precision Health. Just a caution, I'm going to use a lot of big words. I'm going to do my best to break those down for you. But if you're interested in any of these topics, please check out the grid below. I'm going to be posting a lot of content across all of these categories. Firstly, if we're going to think about health, we should have a definition. And where I start with this is when somebody asks me what kind of doctor I am. I used to say a family medicine doctor. Now I say something a little different. I call myself a Salu Neoteno Holobiontologist. Quite a mouthful. Let's break it down. Salu comes from the root word salutogenesis, or the creation of health, instead of pathogenesis, disease. Neoteno stands for metabolic neotenization, which means making the metabolic networks of your cells younger. Neonatology, a doctor who takes care of a young baby. Metabolic neotenization. Lastly is the holobiont. The holobiont is the recognition and perspective that you are an ecosystem, you're not just human. So Salu Neoteno Holobiontology. Next, our framework is built on top of a definition of health. Whether you're looking at conventional care, which is very oriented around disease, or even functional medicine, getting to the root cause of disease, or longevity medicine, that is all hype with no framework. This is the framework for health. So I encourage you to watch to the end of this video as I spew all of this information off the top of my head. So we start with a definition of health, and that has to start a certain way. Health is. If you're defining something and not saying the word is, you're not on the right track. So health is, it's an equation, A plus B plus C. Health equals A plus B plus C. The A term, health is an optimal physiologic state characterized by the A, absence of disease, plus the B, balance of anabolism and catabolism, according to C, where you are in the life cycle. So the absence of disease term is what conventional medicine and functional medicine focus on, rightly so. The B term, the balance, is where health optimization medicine is practiced, and it is the balance of anabolic and catabolic. All metabolic pathways can be broken down into either it is building something or it is breaking something down. So anabolic pathways are things that are creating muscle, fat, molecules, bigger molecules. And catabolic pathways are ones that are breaking those things down, whether it's breaking down bone or muscle or energy. So big fat particles, catabolic is generating energy. The next thing we define is optimal, health optimization, medicine and practice. So we have a definition for health, our definition of optimal. We define optimal by a cohort of 21 to 30-year-olds, healthy, normal adults, and we don't shoot for 100% of their values, but we shoot for a percentage of them. So somewhere between 50 and 75 percentile is probably a safe range to compare your labs to. This is our definition of optimal. Lastly, we have a definition of, or we define how we practice this, the medicine and practice. What is it? Well, it's a method. It's a 3-part method, a circle, an optimization loop, if you will, or a triangle. And it is measure, compare, balance. So we measure. What do we measure? We measure metabolites, or the metabolome. What do we compare? We compare you to optimal. And then what do? We balance, and we balance using 2 techniques. One is called ratio correction, the value between 2 different molecules, such as testosterone and estrogen. And we also balance through what's called network wide range shifting, where we don't just push one node in a network and expect the whole network to get better. We have to attack the network from multiple different ways. Lastly, we have a hierarchy of how we use molecules. So one, we always think about a health optimization prescription. It is one prescription. If you think about lifestyle medicine will give you a different lifestyle prescription for every disease you have. We do not do that. We make one health prescription for you for your lifestyle based upon your biochemistry, your actual testing, right? And then when we use molecules, we think in hierarchy. And our hierarchy is, first, we use bioidentical substance the body is using already. Just makes sense. If something's deficient in the body, if we can replace the identical thing back in the body, we're on the right track. If we need to reach for another compound, we'll use a phytoceutical or something that is alive, man made, or excuse me, not man made, natural. So a plant substance, something that the body has likely seen in evolution before. Our last line of interventional hierarchy is pharmaceutical substance, mostly because not just because of pharmaceuticals, but because they're normally xenobiotics or what are synthetic man made molecules, which potentially your body has never seen your body has never seen in evolution before. Your body is less likely to know how to metabolize these products. Now, it is important to state that there can be very natural compounds that are very toxic for you and some that are good. And there can be synthetic compounds that are not very toxic for you, but can be good. So thinking about that, we don't pigeonhole ourselves into one place. All is molecules, whether you're thinking about food, supplements, pharmaceuticals. The question is what molecule are you putting in your body and what is your rationale for doing it? What is the effect you're looking for and what toxicity do you need to be aware of? That's our initial definitions, but then there's a even deeper layer of what we call the 7 pillars of health optimization medicine. And these are beautifully intricate and interconnected with each other. And I will just name them one by one and chat a little bit about each one, not too much at length, and just give you the high yield points. So the first pillar we use is metabolomics. Metabolomics is the study of small molecules, the actual things that are going on in the pathway. The analogy I like to use is that the genes are the keys on the piano, the epigenome is the pianist. That is your lifestyle, nutrition, diet, molecules that are playing the keys. But what we really care about is what's happening. We care about the music, we care about the metabolome. We can use clinical metabolomic testing to figure this out. This is technology that's been available for decades that really has not made it to care clinics in the conventional system at all. It doesn't seem even close still. It is in disease oriented spaces for very obscure myopathies and mitochondrial problems used. It is used now more commonly in functional medicine spaces to help get to the root cause of your disease. Why? Because we're picking up what's going on at the cellular network level. So this is metabolomics. And it really is the next generation for how humans should be evaluating their bodies. Get on board now. The next is evolutionary medicine, because when we're thinking about human health, we need to locate ourselves in time and space, if you believe in space time. So when we're looking at human health, we can go back to our hardware is about a couple 100,000 years old, maybe 300,000 years. We've had the same bodies. Cultural evolution has rapidly outpaced our biological evolution. And many of the diseases that we experience in the modern day era are what's called evolutionary mismatches. What's important to understand about evolutionary medicine is that there is a XYZ axis. And this is how we practice and where we practice and when we practice health optimization medicine. The X axis is called the evolutionary adaptation axis, where we look at modern man and then we go back to Paleolithic man and we go back to single-celled life as it has evolved. We want to practice health optimization medicine back at Paleolithic man, where our hardware is exquisitely evolved for thriving. The next, we want to think about the y-axis, which is called the size complexity scale. That is from the superorganism up top, what I think I am right now, human. And then as it goes down, there's organ level, and then there's cellular level, and then there's the biophysics level. Many practitioners, myself included, are very interested in biophysics at this point in time. However, what we're trying to do is move medicine from the organ level to the cell level. You can think about you have a cardiologist for your heart, a kidney doctor for your kidney, a brain doctor for your brain, when each one of those organs goes wrong. But really, underneath all of those organs, they're just made up of cells. And so, really, you need a doctor to protect your cellular health. Protect the cells. I'm the doctor for your cells. The last axis in the evolutionary medicine is the Z axis, the environmental chronobiology scale. This is the Z axis. It is the recognition that once upon a time, we lived in an area where there were no devices emitting networks, no cell towers, no Wi-Fi signals, no technology, essentially, and no light bulbs. So if you think about us being human for around 300,000 years and 10,000 years ago, we started, farming and having animal husbandry. That was a watershed moment in human health. We had the advent of zoonotic diseases. The light bulb was invented blink of an eye ago, just a few hundred years maybe. And this is a huge change, as before this, well, all we would have had was fire. So we had now the ability to be exposed to non-native EMF or photons of light when the sun was no longer up. Before we were exposed to fire, undoubtedly, but there was an interesting blend of wavelengths in firelight and as well as near infrared and infrared. In the indoor light environments that we're at now, most people are bathing in a very stimulating white blue wavelength, which is now becoming more understood that it is harming our health and disrupting our rhythms. So these are the three axes of the evolutionary medicine pillar. There is another huge important topic inside of evolutionary medicine called the cell danger response, which is that each cell has maybe 8 ways that it escapes threat. And oftentimes, some of these persistent diseases and symptoms and illnesses that people are facing are unresolved cell danger responses. So we really are the specialty that can evaluate that from a different perspective. So we have metabolomics and evolutionary medicine. Moving on, there are 5 other pillars. I'll try to go quickly. The mitochondrial bioenergetics is another one. Obviously, that's a huge thing for beta oxidation and energy production. The TCA cycle lives there, which we directly measure with metabolomic testing. It is literally crazy to me that modern medicine is not evaluating the TCA cycle, which we have a test for now, that is actually has clinical utility. The TCA cycle is also a huge synthetic hub, more emerging evidence around mitochondrial medicine, metabolic therapy, succinate. Just look at the work of many people in the space. After that, we have the gut immune system. We understand that the gut is a foundation for our health. The microbiome is a postnatal organ. We are a holobiont, which is a human with a lot of other species in our gut. You need to be able to digest and absorb your nutrients if you're going to function and perform at any level. So that's a huge pillar for us. A lot of chronic inflammation is driven in the gut. Moving on, we have chronobiology. We talked a little bit about that with the evolutionary medicine, but we have clock and BAML genes with central clocks and peripheral clocks. All of our hormones and synthetic pathways are cued to our light environment. Many people are not getting enough sun exposure. Jury's still out with dermatology and ophthalmology on that one. Moving on, we have another omic, Exposomics. Exposomics is the study of our environment. Here is a very unique and interesting thing. Obviously, people know clean air, clean water, clean food. They're starting to catch on to plastics and these synthetic products in our environments, whether they're clothing or furniture, all the stuff that we're exposed to now. The awareness is increasing that we need to be cognizant of that and choose better products. However, there is in traditional medicine, there is the clinical toxicologist. If you get poisoned by Tylenol, they call up the poison center and you have a clinical toxicologist looking at the person in the population. They're really concerned about Tylenol hurting you. And so there is that, but they're not really worried about it at the cellular level. They're worried about it at the population level, you as an individual in the population. There is research toxicology, research toxicology, and they are looking at whether toxins affect your genes. Here in Home Hope and Health Optimization Medicine, we are clinical exposomics. We are concerned about toxins and their effect on your cells. So this is kind of a very unique feature of our practice in that it creates a space to look at how these things are affecting our cellular health, what's going on with our oxidative stress and inflammation secondary to this. So we directly look and measure these things to figure out how we can improve the detoxification. We detect and correct deficiencies and toxicities in your metabolism. Lastly, we have epigenetics, and this is the understanding that we can read and write our DNA with epinutrients and other things. We also look at methylation as it's related to the methyl cycle and how it affects our cellular reproduction, our hormone, neurotransmitter synthesis, etc. I think that is the 7 pillars. I'll run through them again. We have clinical metabolomics, evolutionary medicine, chronobiology, mitochondrial bioenergetics, the gut immune system, and epigenetics. That's all 7. So that's a pretty robust model. There's a little bit more, but I think I'm going to leave it at that, as the next level is a little bit too deep for Instagram videos. If you enjoyed this, I'd love to hear from you. If you made it this far in the video, it means you're a nerd like we are. And if you are wanting someone to take your health this seriously, please reach out.